Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Now, if you're here, you're obviously considering remote sales because it's enticing, it's lucrative, it's very financially rewarding, and it has the lowest risk and the highest upscale. Alhamdulillah. Most people, when they're trying to get into remote sales, fail before they even start. Not because they're incapable, but because they approach it the wrong way. And they just jump. Some people just want to jump straight into closing. They don't know where to start. They're taking information from several different people online, and they chase money before actually learning the craft itself, because the craft is very important. They put themselves in positions they're not really ready for. So in this video, we're going to break down 4 clear steps to get into remote sales, even if you have no professional background, no experience, and no connections. Now, it's not just, theory, it's a real practical framework that shows how people actually enter this space, how they progress, and how they build real income over time, inshallah. So if you follow these steps in order and don't skip ahead, you'll obviously avoid most of the mistakes that cause people to quit early. Because sales, you got to have endurance, longevity, persistence, perseverance. It's very, very important. So I'm going to give you 4 practical steps that you can take today to get into remote sales. Now, before we get into the practical steps, I just want to outline what high ticket sales really is. Because the better you understand it, the better your awareness, your perception, and the understanding of the industry will be, especially when you go into these types of roles. And high ticket sales, it's very simple. Some people complicate it, overcomplicate it. Some people have a misconstrued understanding of it. It is B2B and B2C products. They are sold online as courses, mentorship programs, training programs, or in the B2B case, consultancy services. And what they're basically doing is a transformation. So my best example that I like to pick out is a fitness offer. Now, if you are overweight and you have in 6 months to a year been able to, transform your body and your physique completely, you have a formula for success. You have a roadmap. You have a structure that works very well. And people will pay you for that because it's knowledge that you're going to be able to monetize. It's knowledge that people will pay for today. Just like the knowledge that I give to my students, helping them get into a high income skill of remote appointment setting. They want fast track. They want acceleration. They want to cut out trial and error. So they're going to pay someone thousands of dollars to give them that roadmap and the path that you've been able to walk. And those products, as you see here, is priced at between 1 to 10K in dollars. And then if you look at high ticket sales at the moment, there's 2 parts to it when it comes to the sales, the people involved in the sales process, as well as obviously the hiring manager and the sales manager who control the systems and the infrastructure and the hiring. You've got the people who are hired are appointment setters and closers. So appointment setting is one, closing is one. And you got to remember that appointment setting is a very important entry-level role. People just think you're booking calls. And I say this to all my students all the time. Don't downplay the size of this role. Because when marketing does its job in bringing that product to that customer's eyes, when they take action to fill out a form, for example, you are the first human touch point. You are the big difference between someone getting into a call, someone being booked into a call to buy that service, or someone just being a time waster. So you're cutting out, you're filtering out, and you are a big contributor to the revenue of that company. So you're not doing a small job. You're actually doing a big job. That's what you got to understand here. So this also can take you into the pathway of becoming a sales manager or a hiring manager. Now, of course, I'm focusing here on appointment setting and closing. So don't just jump to conclusions. And don't just jump, straight into looking. I mean, it's good to begin with the end in mind, right? But at the same time, you got to follow the process. Sales is a long game. It's a journey. It's steady. It's nothing that you can rush. Okay. So the 4 steps are the following, and I'm going to break it down for you guys, inshallah ta'ala. You've got number 1, which is education. And then number 2, which is the right offer. And then number 3, starting out as a setter. And number 4, ascending to a closer. Step 1 is very simple. It's all about education and learning. The first step to immerse yourself in sales is to grasp the fundamentals of sales and communication, because communication is at the forefront of, it's the art. It's the backbone. You can't perform well in sales without having good communication skills. So what can you do to start to learn and grasp the understanding of it? Well, you need to educate yourself. There are a bunch of resources online. And I know there's a big difference between free and paid, but you can learn a lot from free resources. And then you've got to put it into practice. And we're going to go into that in a second. So consume 80% of what's out there already. Just take it in, take it in. And of course, knowledge is useless without you implementing it. So don't just think, oh, I'm going to consume all this knowledge and I'll be ready for sales. That's not going to be the case. Read some books, because there's a really good book called Influence, which teaches you how to communicate in persuasively and an ethical manner. And here you learn about psychology. Okay, so you need to learn how conversations flow, how people make decisions, how to communicate in a way that builds alignment. And you can subscribe to a lot of sales focused channels that break down real calls and frameworks, look at role plays, follow people who actually teach communication and team building, and not just this useless lifestyle content. And then study communication yourself through books. But if you want to shorten the learning curve, structured mentorship can help tenfold, but only if it provides clear, actionable steps and gives you a proper structure and guidance and accountability. And the goal is simple from everything. You understand what sales actually is and what it isn't. Now, a lot of brothers in our program, alhamdulillah, we have a remote appointment setting program where we train driven Muslim men to master the niche of appointment setting and become real elite appointment setters, because there is a shortage of good appointment setters. And you need training and guidance and mentor behind you to fix your mistakes, to show you where you're going wrong, to show you what you could have done better, to give you reviews, etc. And alhamdulillah, some of our students have done really, really well in our program. Some brothers are on 2 roles at the moment in appointment setting. And alhamdulillah, if you invest in yourself, then that's real growth. Okay. And if you haven't checked us out, you can check the link in our description below, Remote Risk, where we have a guided mentorship program where quitting, my brothers, is harder than succeeding in our program. So check that out. And we also have some free training modules in our free school community, and we're looking to add more training modules for you as well, inshallah. So check it out and see if this is something you really, really want to learn, and if you want to qualify for a program, that is. So step 2 is finding the right offer. Now, an offer is a product or a service you will be selling for another business, whether that be setting or closing. Now, if you're closing, you're more or less selling that product. If you're setting, you're not selling the product. You're selling the next meeting. That's what you got to understand. People have a misconception about appointment setting. Some people say to me, Muslims that I've spoken to, yeah, I don't really know how to sell. Well, you're not selling anything. You're selling the meeting by understanding that prospect, by understanding their goals, where they currently are, and where they want to get to. So you want to filter these offers using 2 specific criteria. Number 1, it's got to be a validated offer. You got to ensure the offer is proven in the market. Like, they've got some reviews, they've got a good product, they've got a good following, they've got a good system, and you can see, like, even by doing a brief research on them, that this is a reputable company and they do things properly. Okay. Number 2 is inbound lead flow. Look for companies that provide inbound leads. Inbound leads is pretty simple, right? It's more or less, it means that people already know about the brand. They filled in an application, for example. They're basically raising their hand to because they want to know more about the product. Okay, and this matters because inbound leads, what that leads to is higher show-up rates, better conversations, easier conversations, less resistance on these phone calls. So you're not cold calling random people. You're speaking to people who already are interested. If an offer doesn't meet these two criteria, then you can move on and look at something different. Now, of course, there is outbound as well, which means there's paid ads and someone fills in the form. That is considered outbound phone dialing and phone setting. That in itself is really good as well, because if someone's doing paid ads, that's a signal that they're turning over a good amount of money. They're at least probably at 5-6 figures, most likely 6 figures. And I teach brothers how to funnel hack in one of my videos. I think it's called what I would have done if I started remote sales again. So check out funnel hacking in that video, where I teach you how you can actually, get good response rates from the outreach that you do to 6 or 7 figure entrepreneurs and their agencies, inshallah. So it's very important to find the right offer, because if you go into an offer where they're just starting out, you may not get the value that you're putting forward. So you may not be rewarded for the amount of energy, time, and effort you're putting in. Number three, step three, is starting as an appointment setter. See, if you have no experience, appointment setting is entry level, and it's the best way to get your foot in the door. So you start to build real understanding about, a business, an offer, a team, the sales process and the sales infrastructure really functions, and it's entry level. So you learn the business from the ground up. So if appointment setting is at the start of the sales process, you're going to be able to learn so much more about closing, sales managing, hiring managing, building out systems, tech, data analytics. So you're going to learn and you're going to start to consume and grasp and swallow information regarding how a business is actually set up in the high ticket sales game. And this is why people become closers, good closers, and then they go on to become what? Sales managers or hiring managers, and even growth operators. And then you got the earning potential. Now, when it comes to an entry level setter, you could earn between $3,000 and $8,000 a month. And I put $3,000 because, you can, in some cases, you can even, you start a bit lower than that. But again, if you get the right offer, then absolutely, you should be earning 3K at least minimum. It's obviously performance based and it's uncapped commission. That means that if your performance is better and your momentum is high and you're doing very, very well, and your consistency, your discipline, your daily habits are really, really good, and you're performing at an exceptional level, you can definitely earn more money. There's no problem with that. Because they're not going to say to you, oh, you're contracted to earn 3 to 5K. We can't pay you anymore, because you're creating revenue for the company. You're making them money. So if you're making them money, they're going to pay you as well, right? They're going to pay you in accordance to what? Your results. Hard work. This phase typically lasts between 2 to 6 months before you're ready to ascend. We're talking about ready to ascend to becoming a closer. Now, some people jump ship too early and they find that they're struggling in closing. But you got to understand, you got to take a steady journey. Remember, landing a role is only step one. Okay, landing a role is step one. So at this stage, it requires a lot of work. You're competing with others. You're learning under pressure. You're building discipline. So this phase will typically take about that long. So people who start off in our program, when they land that first role, it's step one. This is where the skills are actually built. Your skills are put to a test. Okay. So step 4, ascend to closing. Once you have mastered the setting role, now some people, don't get me wrong, they actually stay in closing, because if you think about it like this, you don't fix what's not broken. Meaning, if you're earning good money, you like your lifestyle, you like the time, you like the fact that you can build around your salah, and you like your day to day, you can stay there. You can stay there, and you're earning a lot of money. I know one brother not in my program, but I'm in an agency that he's working for. He does 8 to 10K a month consistently, and he enjoys his life. Check out the video that I did with him, where I talked about. It's one of the most recent ones. You'll see him, special guest speaker. And when you start to understand the role, like you've mastered it, and you understand the business, and by the way, you're going to be working in sync with the closer on that company wherever you go, because the closers and setters are like best friends. They need to be best friends because they need to work in sync. They need to work as a team because they have a shared outcome. They want to earn commission. So closers you can earn as a closer 8 to 20K per month, and you really can. Some people, that's just the lower end. I know a lot of people that, not a lot of people, but I know people that earn 50K a month, 40K a month. So remember, drop the ego, observe and mimic from others, and drop the I know it all attitude. When you start to master appointment setting and you start to become comfortable, you start to become complacent in the way you think, the way your mindset used to be when you started out. The top setters, they really have that beginner mindset. Ask questions. As I said, come with a beginner mindset. Ask questions. You want to learn. You want to do reps, right? So don't come with this, now I know it all and I can sit back and I don't need to learn. You always need to have a humble mindset. And in Islam, right, we should always come with humbleness, And in sales, it's very easy to fall into the trap of, you start to become arrogant, you start to become a bit cocky, you start to become a bit comfortable, you start to become entitled. These are not the traits that we want. Not in sales and not in as a Muslim either, okay? Review calls, be obsessed with getting better. Be obsessed with getting better so you can get feedback loops. Turn those feedback loops into constant optimization and refinement of your skills. Treat the business like yours. There are no boundaries in high ticket sales. There are absolutely no boundaries. So you can do as much as you want for a business owner. He loved that. Like, for example, I spoke to one brother, and that same brother I'm talking about, he went ahead and started doing some copywriting for the business, like out of his own, accord. and just to help the business owner out. And the business owner was really, really happy with him. And he started to pass and delegate more responsibilities to him. What does that show? He recognizes his work. He relies on that brother. He trusts that brother. This is what we want. Now, bonus tips. Treat the business like your business and become irreplaceable. Of course, goes on to the last slide, to the previous slide, but let's just start with the first one. Do role play. Now, it's very important that you just don't consume, you don't become a consumer, right? Consumption needs to become production. Don't become a consumer and just consume content and consume resources and free resources, and then khalas, you think you're ready, you're good to go. That's not the case. Sales, as it says at the bottom, isn't about consumption of information. Okay, now peers or even chat GPT, do role play with friends, do role play with people that you find through networking, or you even use chat GPT to ask him for a scenario, give him the offer, and then you can do back-to-back role play with him. Follow the process, meaning you don't just jump to closing, and you don't just think too far ahead, and you're rushing to things. We can't be haste. We got to follow the process. The process is mastering, learning, tackling every single weakness within appointment setting, and slowly moving up to closing. Some people just want to, because of the earnings, they just want to jump into closing. No, try master it first. Be patient. Okay, have forbearance. Be firm, and always see the bigger picture. You'd rather be safe than sorry. Now, treating the business like your business is part of becoming irreplaceable. Because when you start to become observant, when you start to be diplomatic, when you start to, really, really hone in on the fact that this is a business, I want to think like a business owner, and I want to treat like a business owner. And you want to be creative. You want to be a problem solver. You want to be accountable. You want to take ownership. Okay. Number 4, network and become proactive. When it comes to landing roles, try connect with setters, try connect with hiring managers, try to connect with anyone in sales. Even go to appointment setters and get an understanding of what a day-to-day looks like. Get an understanding of what the expectations are. And even hop on calls with them, network with them, ask them about, what offers have they worked on. That could be a door opener for you to go out and reach out to that business owner and use and name drop that setter, name drop that closer. Sales isn't about consumption of information. It's about reps. People think that learning sales is just consuming information, or learning sales is just, all about just communicating with people. It's communication is at the forefront of it, absolutely. But sales, the way you learn sales is you do reps. You just go crazy with the reps. That's the way you do it. All right. So skill development is very important, but the only way you get better at that skill is simply doing as many reps as possible. All right. So remember, we got to understand one thing before I end this. Why are you getting into sales in the first place? It's not just about your income. It's about where you currently are, where you want to go, and how to use sales as that vehicle to get you to where you want to go. People want location freedom. People want control over their time. People want to make hijrah. People want a remote halal income pathway. And, this is a reps-based game. You learn by doing. Your progress is by staying consistent. And you win by following the process and not rushing outcomes. Remember that, okay? The most important thing that you should take away from this is, before you even get into sales, ask yourself why. There's powerful questions that we can ask ourselves. And that best question you can ask yourself is, why are you getting into this in the first place? So remember, ikhwa, that remote sales is not a shortcut. All right, it's not a shortcut. There's an insane amount of work that needs to go ahead. There's competition is high, and a lot of brothers want to get into sales, but it's the lowest risk. It's a skill, and the skills reward those who are patient, disciplined, and willing to start where they currently are. So if you follow these 4 steps in order: education, offer selection, appointment setting, and progression through actual feedback, then through ascending to a closer, you give yourself a real chance. Not overnight success, and but long-term progression. So if this breakdown helped, stay connected. Please like, comment, subscribe. And if you're serious about learning this properly, check out the link in our description below to see if you qualify for our guided mentorship. Follow the process, put the reps in, inshallah, and the results, by Allah's permission and your intentions and your means and your dua to Him, will come over time, inshallah ta'ala. Barakallah feek. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.